when you talk about the league table of recruitment, I think Man United would be without doubt the bottom club. The amount of the wages they pay for really average players and the transfer fees are absolutely extraordinary. There's no structure, there's no coherence, there's no plan. Even Chelsea, who's probably recruitment over the last 18 months has been the worst in football history. At least in the summer, they had an actual plan of, we won't sign players over 25. And they didn't sign Maddison because he was over 25. And, he's someone they were very keen on and liked. And, Maddison's obviously done amazingly for Tottenham, but they didn't sign him because of his age. And that is a plan. Whereas with Man United, it's literally who's the biggest name, or who was good once, or who did they think was quite decent, and all the scouts of Man United from right here, they tear their hair out because they know that what they say doesn't actually make that much difference, and it's done on a whim and through agent contacts. And what happened with Ten Hag and the SEG agency, I think that was embarrassing. It was disgraceful in the summer and very, very dubious as well. And that's completely the wrong way to run your whole transfer setup. And that's why one of the reasons why the team's so bad. Whereas excellent recruitment, with the right coaching setup, can make a very, very, very strong team. Worked brilliantly for Liverpool, and
the goalkeeper situation at Old Trafford is just baffling. I mean, to have let De Gea go, who's a significantly better goalkeeper in my opinion than Onana, and then to pay a big fee for Onana on top of it is just a complete disaster.
Yeah. And Onana doesn't even fit the sort of way Ten Hag plays anyway, because Onana's kind of been brought in to, be the sweeper keeper and sort of ping the balls to the midfielders and out wide to the winger, but Ten Hag doesn't even play like that. So I mean, he's like Conte and Mourinho really in terms of the playing style, very negative, very counter-attacking, and actually De Gea in that kind of setup was probably the right kind of keeper. So it was really
in just
bizarre.
One summer, just on United, one final point. In one summer, it really feels like age has caught up with Varane with these constant injuries, with Casemiro with the constant injuries, and also Eriksen, who the last time I saw him was a complete shadow of the player I remember at Tottenham, and obviously that went off to Inter Milan and won some big trophies there. So I just think that age has really caught up with United, as well as the bad buys of Antony and of Mount that just aren't performing. Big problems lie ahead for Man United, not just for now, but for the future as well.
And Wayne, it sounds like, as reported exclusively by Football Insider over the weekend, there is actually going to be huge change coming for United in terms of the club's ownership model. Can you kind of fill us in on this and what that might look like in years to come for the side?
Yeah, one of the kind of big plans of Sir Jim Ratcliffe when he completes the first stage of his takeover, which might be another kind of month or so away, is to implement a multi-club model, very similar to Man City's. Sir Jim Ratcliffe already owns 2 clubs, Nice in France and Lausanne in Switzerland, and he wants a multi-club model where Man United can sort of develop young players, farm out their young talent on loan, and then develop them in kind of weaker leagues and for their feeder teams, then bring them back to Man United and put them in their first team. And Man City have done that with a lot of success and also made a lot of money from it as well, in terms of then selling those players who might not be deemed good enough for the Man City team, but selling them for big money. And Man United, that is the model that Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants. And I've been told that that's kind of key to him taking over the football operations, because at the moment, Man United, unlike all Premier League clubs, they're not able to buy players under the age of 18 from overseas because of the Brexit law. So that's why kind of you see Brighton have their own team abroad. That's why Man City have kind of got all these teams. I mean, loads of the Premier League clubs now, they've got almost like a feeder team, haven't they? And because Brexit rules, that makes it even more important. So that's kind of the real story behind why he will take over the football operations, and from the Glazers, who will kind of retain the majority control. And you can actually see it does make sense. And I think from Man United fans' point of view, they might think, well, at least that's a plan, because there isn't a plan at the moment, because it's just completely incoherent, everything. And it's it's almost mad how badly the club is run.
John, have you got any thoughts on the opinion? Because I think overall, really, multi-club models have kind of been argued for and against over the last few years, especially with obviously Manchester City and their domination with the City Football Group. Now, I think, no doubt, having a stake in another club does open up doors that single club ownership doesn't have. But do you think as years to come, it might become more challenging because there are then less clubs left on the market to sort of join forces with?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Tottenham have tried this a few times and have never quite got over the line, especially with the Dutch league. I believe there was a very close to an affiliation with Roda JC, Dutch club. It got as far as sending Carl Walker-Peters over there. He wasn't happy and he came back and everything seemed to be cancelled. But yeah, Tottenham obviously have looked into it before and they haven't done it themselves. Other clubs doing it, yeah, it makes absolute sense. As Wayne touched on earlier, Brighton do it very, very well. A lot of the players that then come into their team in the Premier League do kind of 1 year in Belgium first. I know they've got a Ivory Coast winger now, his name escapes me, Angorin, that starts a lot of games on the other side to Mitoma, who did a year in Belgium, sort of toughening up first of all. Obviously, look, as we said, Brexit, work permit issues, getting players from South America to settle into a European league, it all makes sense and I see why clubs do it. For United though, I just wonder if they could have done more with local clubs in their area. There's a lot of teams in that area, Stockport, obviously we saw what happened to Bury, Bolton Wanderers, Wigan. There's plenty of clubs in that area that I think United could have utilised better in terms of the players could have continued to train at Carrington and then played matches with their loan clubs on the weekend, and they could have been doing that and should have been doing that. And I don't really know why they haven't utilised that, because Manchester City have utilised that option, and I know Liverpool over the years have really utilised their local clubs in terms of loaning players there, and you can keep an eye on them and they can still live with the same host family and that sort of thing. So yeah, I can see it becoming more popular. And obviously I can see Tottenham maybe approaching that model as well with Scott Munn's appointment at the club and how he worked with the City Group before. He'll have expertise and knowledge on that, and that might have been a reason he's been brought in.
Yeah, Wayne, and as you mentioned, obviously Sir Jim Ratcliffe owns OG Nice and Lausanne. Do you think, like we've kind of touched on potentially, will that network expand quickly, or is it a slow development to kind of get in touch with other clubs and then form alliances? How does that work?
Well, I think it depends how well connected you are and how well connected the people in your management team are as well. And, if there's any doors already open that they can kind of push through to get a deal done. But I mean, the interesting thing is, I'm told from sort of people who work for Man United is that they almost feel like they're doing the job with one hand tied behind their back in terms of recruitment. They feel like they've been very much left behind when it comes to sourcing the elite global talent. And, Brighton are absolutely nailing it in South America, aren't they? Particularly bringing through some amazing players that then obviously selling on for, astonishing fees. Casado's best example of that. And United at the moment, they said we can't even compete with Brighton. That's where they are, which is extraordinary, isn't it? It's absolutely extraordinary. And the work permit rules have changed a huge amounts, and I mean, no neutral's going to cry for Man United, are they? But they are definitely struggling on that front, and that is kind of very, very key to Jim Ratcliffe's sort of early plans. And I think I'd expect them to have a couple more clubs definitely within a year or two.